Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Welcome back to another fun episode of Next to Madison. I'm your host, Madison Malloy, and on today's episode, we are talking dating and relationships, and I'm sitting down with celebrity matchmaker and author Samantha Daniels, who has been an absolute a monster in this business. When I say monster, like a powerhouse. She knows what she's doing. She is the expert. Many people turn to her because she's the one that can get it done. So she's giving us advice, and she even convinces me. I've had not so great experiences with matchmakers, which I share, and she's convinced me that somebody like her is going to turn it all around. So it's an exciting, exciting time. She's such a sweet woman. And if you are looking for love, this episode is absolutely for you. But she also drops some great relationship tips in there, not only for if you're looking for love, what to align on, but also some tips of how to keep your relationship going to make sure you're aligned on those things to divorce proof it. So, anyways, I'll stop talking. It's a great episode. It's fun. We all love dating. We love love. Everybody loves love. Even though, like in New York City where I'm at, people are like, ugh, dating's so hard. We talk about that too. It is all in your mindset. You attract what you are. If you think dating is hard, you are going to have that in your reality. So use this episode as a positive influence to start switching the dating mindset and just watch the magic in your life. So we will be right back after this brief episode with our amazing guest on Next to Madison. Stay tuned. It's your host, Madison Malloy, and I have exciting news. My new product is now available on Amazon called Color Your Way to Abundance, a 21-day manifestation guide for wealth, health, and love. This unique coloring journal will help you manifest by coloring in the affirmations while you continue to repeat them. This will help activate these affirmations so they become a reality. Grab your copy today and relax, color, and start manifesting. Okay, we are back with our amazing guest on this episode of Next to Madison, where we are talking about everyone's favorite topic or not so favorite topic, dating. And if you're in a relationship, that's okay, because I'm sure we're going to cover those topics as well and how to keep your relationship hot and heavy so you don't have to go back into the dating world, which we all hate, although I actually like it. So anyways, with that being said, I'd like to welcome author and celebrity matchmaker Samantha Daniels. How are you?
I'm good, Madison. How are you?
I'm so excited to have you here. You are such a celebrity yourself, even though you're a celebrity matchmaker. You are a celebrity. You've been on television shows, you've produced television shows, you've done it all. And so I want to get in, just tell us about your brief background and how you ended up being a matchmaker, because I always find that so fascinating.
Well, I started out as a divorce attorney,
Oh,
actually, and I was helping people break up. And then I realized that it would be much more rewarding to help people get together than help them break up. And so I started throwing parties for my single friends because I knew a lot of people here in New York. And at the parties, just to be a good hostess, I would introduce people to each other. So I'd see a woman on one side of the room and she was from Chicago, and I'd see a guy on the other side of the room and he was from Chicago, and they
yeah.
both like to play tennis. And so I grab them, bring them together, introduce them. And then I kept hearing that these couples were getting into relationships, getting engaged, getting married, and all these people were saying you should have a business. So I thought to myself, that would be so much better than all of this heartache in the divorce
Yeah.
world. So I started my business. It's over
That
20 years
is
ago.
that is so cool. I feel like matchmaking is one of those things that you just end up falling into.
Well, I kind of fell into it. I kind of did it. I was strategic in some ways, but then it also happened that way when I was in law school. My mother suggested divorce law because it's like a very personal, touchy-feely kind of law. I just didn't really think it through and realize that it's like touchy-feely at the worst possible time of someone's life. And so it's really
Yes.
debilitating for them and it's really debilitating for the lawyers. And so now I'm in the other side of the business, of the relationship business. And now everybody's looking for love. Everyone's happy,
Oh,
so everyone's looking for marriage. And so for me, it's really joyful to be able to help people find their perfect match and to help them find love and their happily ever after. So
okay. So why a matchmaker versus all the dating apps?
Well, so that's a pretty big, broad question. But what's happening right now is that there are a lot of dating apps out there, and
Hmm.
people are using them because they're easy and they're cheap, and they figure, why not? But for a lot of people, they can't be public, because they're high profile. I work with a lot of high
Oh,
profile people and celebrities, and for
yeah.
whatever reason, they really want to keep their private life private. And if they throw it up on a dating app, then everybody sees that they're single, everybody sees what's going on, so that's not always the greatest for
Yeah.
someone who's high profile. And also, a lot of times they get targeted on the dating apps. They get targeted because somebody can Google them. People think, oh, well, if I don't put my full name, people don't know who I am. You can figure out most of the time who someone is, whether you do a reverse image search or whether you just do some sleuthing. A lot of times you can figure out who someone is. And then all of a sudden you have these people who are targeting the wealthy, high profile person because they want to be with someone like that. So if you work with a matchmaker like me, I'm finding people for you. I'm vetting them. I'm making sure that they're interested for the right reasons. And then I'm introducing you. So it's a whole other level of how you can meet someone.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you find your clients or do they find you?
Well, so it's a little bit of both. I get a
Okay.
lot of referrals, friends of friends, people who know just one matchmaker out there, and that's me. So
Yeah.
there aren't hundreds of matchmakers out there. So it's not like, oh, I need a lawyer, and someone will say, oh, I know one, I know one. And then all of a sudden there's 72 different lawyers being suggested. A lot of people don't know that many. So I'm someone who they suggest a lot. And then a lot of times I get press. And so, or I write an article or I'm on TV,
Yeah.
talking about dating or relationships. And so I get interest that way. And also from people who I've set up before. A lot of times, if I set someone up and they go out and they have a great time, then they'll suggest it to some of their friends and their friends of friends. And then I also do a lot of outreach. I do a lot of social media where I put up something I call matchmaking alert, where I'll put up and say, I'm looking for this kind of person and I'm working with this kind of person. And within about 15 minutes from when I put up that alert, I'll get 250, 300 responses.
Oh
And
my
that doesn't mean,
gosh.
yeah, it doesn't mean that they're all fabulous, and it doesn't mean that they're all fabulous for my client, but I get a lot
Yes.
of responses. What about me? What about my colleague? What about my sister? What about my mom? What about my friend? And then I start digging in and
Right.
trying to get to know them and really vetting them to make sure that they could be good for my client.
Interesting. Okay. So I got to get into it. We connected through my producer, and I'm so happy to have you here. But I have been approached by matchmakers in the past, and I have got to be honest with you, never had a positive experience. What I find, obviously, I'm not the paying client, so I understand there's a little bit of that. But I find that some of these men will hire matchmakers because they're looking for something that doesn't exist, right? Or something that's just, it's like, did you look in the mirror? Like, how do you expect, you know
Right,
what I mean?
exactly.
Like, yeah, you want that, but I don't think you can get that, right? Or so I don't find that these men that hire matchmakers are men I would want to date. You know what I mean? Because I
Well, so
feel like
you've you've
they're
you've
looking
basically
for,
you've basically put out the number one reason why at least I turn down clients, right? So if a man comes to me and he's disingenuous or he's unrealistic or he's asking for a 40-year age gap or
yeah.
he wants, the perfect 10 supermodel who's thin and fit in that and he needs to lose 60 pounds and all of that, I turn them down.
Oh,
Right. I own
God.
a matchmaking company where I work with people all over the country and some other, a little bit in Europe and other places, but I'm very particular on who I take. And I only work with just so many people at any one time. And if I sit with somebody and they start with all of that you're talking about, that is a red flag for me. I mean, depending upon my mood, I might sit through the meeting or I might just get up and say, this isn't for me, but I'm not going to work with someone like that. I mean, when you're a professional and you're well regarded in your industry, when you get to a certain point in your career and you know that you're respected, you have to respect yourself first. And I want
Yes.
to be working with people who I like and who I'm proud to put out there. And who, when I contact, let's say you, and I say, I want you to meet this fabulous man, that he's actually fabulous. Because guess what? It's my reputation too. If I tell you that he's fabulous and you get there and he's a complete toad, then you're never going to go out with any of my guys again, number one. And number two, you're going to go tell 5 other people or 10 other people, if Samantha Daniels contacts you, don't take the date. And I don't want that to happen, right? So I'm very particular also, and I would hope that other matchmakers will
Yeah.
do that too.
Yeah, because all the ones that like I've like gone on dates with, like through matchmakers, they nice people, wonderful people, but like I wouldn't even t talk to them in a bar. And I'm not saying that to be like rude. They're just so not my type.
Well,
And
did
then
you
a
ask
lot
questions before you accepted the date? Because I mean, some
they
of
were
the
just like,
responses.
he's great. And I'm like, send a picture. Now I'm like, you know how busy I am? Like, I'm not just going out with anyone. I have people that want to come go out with me that I still don't have time to put in my schedule. So I'm not
So
gonna,
when they
unless I
sent
can
the
see a
picture,
picture.
did they send the wrong picture? Or I
No, the
mean,
last one they didn't send the picture. So she contacted me again and I said, unless you can send me a picture of them holding today's paper, I'm not interested. Because you don't know when the damn picture's from.
right. No, that's true. And that's a good way to do it. But I would say to you that you kind of set yourself up for that, because if
Good.
they're saying that they won't send a picture, then that's red flag number one, because what are they hiding? Right. And if they say
Yeah.
that they can't get a picture, well, why not? I mean, anybody could take a picture within 11 seconds, and if they're talking to you
Yeah.
about the guy in generalities, that's a red flag also. What people say about me, and obviously everybody thinks different things, and whatever it is, but I'm very direct on how I describe somebody, and I'm
Yeah.
very accurate. So when people get to the date, every day, the next day when I get the feedback, they say, your description was so spot on. He was exactly what you said. She was exactly
Love
what you
that.
said. So I feel like it's important to do that, because you don't want people to expect too much, because then they're always disappointed, and you don't want to make them think that somebody is terrific and then they're not terrific, somebody's terrible and then they're great. Like, you just want to be honest, right? Because from my perspective, there's a lot of people out there, right? So if you're not going to like the guy and you're not even going to give him a chance, then what's the point of wasting his time? What's the point of wasting yours? So I think if we get to know each other and I reach out to you, I think that you'll have a very different experience with my dates.
Oh, well, thank God. Thank God. But I also I gotta be honest with you, and there's a lot of women that probably can relate to this when I say this is, I sometimes feel like I'm like, have I aged out of the matchmaking thing? Because I feel like most of those guys want the young, 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 and I'm 42. So I don't really, I've had matchmakers on this podcast in the past, and I don't really gravitate towards them anymore because I've just had terrible experiences. And to
Yeah,
where
no,
they
that I mean,
almost
that makes me
make you
feel
feel
sad.
expired. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I
no,
am not
you
expired.
are you are 1,000% not expired, but I mean, obviously, every person wants somebody different. So, are
Yeah,
there going to be men out there who are 45 who aren't going to go out with you? Yeah, of course there are. But are there
worse.
going to be men who are 45 who are going to go out with you? Of course. So it really depends on the circumstances. You don't have to be right for every single man out there. You just have to be right for one man. Right. And only one
Exactly.
man needs to be right for you. So I feel like sometimes people think about it in too big of a way. You really just have to focus on finding one. So if you find one great one, then you'll notice, because you've gone out with a lot of toads and now all of a sudden you see the prince and you get that. So I think that each time you just have to think of it as a new experience. You've hopefully learned your lesson when you've gone out with people. And it's the same thing with dating apps. I don't know if you're using the apps or not, but it's the same exact thing. And there's no intermediary. So if you think about it, the
Yes.
matchmaking situation is better, because at least you have someone like me who can vouch for the guy,
Yeah.
could vouch for the guy and say, this guy is terrific, this guy's this guy's that, and sometimes maybe the guy isn't great looking, but I would tell you that. So I would say to you, he's okay looking. If he came to my big expression is, if he came to my door, I'd be okay with them. So
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that I think he's the hottest guy ever. So I would tell you, he's okay looking. If he came to my door, I give him a chance. But what's so great about him is X. So sometimes there's something fabulous about him and it's not his looks. Sometimes it's the whole package. I feel like a lot of times I get guys who are the whole package, so you need to go sit down with them. You see a piece of chocolate sitting in front of you and you've got to take that bite to see if
Right?
there's cherry on the inside, so you've got to
Yeah.
everything that he's got going for him so that you can decide if you like him or not.
Yeah. And I think the only reason I like the apps more is like I would be so popular on the apps, but then like matchmakers would never set me up with anybody unless they were
I
like
know, but
toads. And I'm like, what
that
in the hell?
well, so if you hired a matchmaker, like let's say you hired me, then the woman that then I would be picking people for you who want to go
Yeah.
out with you and who are interested in someone like you, and I would be setting you up with guys that you tell me that you're interested in. My concern with the dating apps a lot, especially for you, who's a high profile person, is that the wrong guys might be interested in you, or disingenuous guys, or guys put up photos on there and they're from 5 years ago. Guys put photos up from 10 years ago. They describe themselves that they work in a certain industry, but they lost their job 6 years ago. They say that they're retired, but actually they're out of work. They say that they're divorced, but actually they're married. They say a lot of things. They say that their age is X, but it's really Y. So
Exactly. Yeah.
when you have someone like me, what I'm doing is I'm acting as somebody's agent, somebody's manager, and they're almost like a project, right? So if you were an actor and I was your agent, then all of these projects would cross my desk and I would have to decide the best movie to put you in, right? And I would have to look at the movie, I'd have to verify the financing, I'd have to see who else is going to be in it, I'd have to read the story, I'd have to get to know a
Yeah.
lot about the
So
project where I think it's for you. And it's the same thing with the guy.
yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of women like they don't want to pay for a matchmaker because A, they're very expensive. And for me, like, God, I've been alone so long by choice that I'm like, I like my life. Like, unless somebody is so fabulous, like I'm so happy. So happy. So somebody has to
But you
add
could
like
be happier if you were
value.
with a great guy, you
I
know?
could. I
Yeah.
could, but at this time, like, am I going to go and invest in a matchmaker? No, because I have a lot of other things I have to invest in for my business. But I think a lot of like men are specifically the ones that are hiring matchmakers, and then they go out and they have a pool of women that they have
Yeah.
access to.
Yep.
And then that's where when when you're 31 or 28, like you get a bunch of matches. And then when you're older, you're like, that's why I like
That's
the apps better is because I was very popular, very popular. But I like I couldn't handle it because I was so busy with everything. I don't even have time to hang out with these people. Um, versus, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm like, I love you. I watched your stuff and I'm like, she's great, but I am not a fan of matchmakers. I'm just being honest and being authentic. I like you. And Lynette and I spoke and we're like, she's great. She's different. And that's why I'm like, let's bring her on to make, but I've just had such horrible experiences. And a lot of my friends have too. But I like
Well,
what you're
I think that
saying.
what I would say to you is that, and the advice that I give to most women that I speak to, my female friends, every female out there, is that you have to put yourself out there in all different ways. And so if you want to be
True.
on the apps, you should be meeting with matchmakers. If a matchmaker contacts you, let them put you in their database. It can't hurt. Like,
True.
don't have this negative energy that you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'm so old. You're 42 years old. That's not that old.
Oh, I
I
don't
know
think that way, but
lots of
these
men.
matchmakers think that way.
Well,
Like
I
I
don't
think
think
I'm
that way at all. And I have plenty of men who are in their 40s and their early 50s who are absolutely looking for a woman who's your age, who's beautiful
okay.
and interesting and confident. So that doesn't turn me off at all. Like if you were 62 years old and you'd never been married before, then obviously I would think something negative. But you're 42 years old and you're focusing on your career and you're interesting and you're well spoken and you're attractive. So you could definitely be set up. So I
Okay.
think that you go out with your friends, you try to meet men that way. You go onto the apps, you try to meet men that way. You let matchmakers set you up if they offer, because what I say is that if I reach out to you, usually out of the blue, I'll reach out to a woman, it's usually out of the blue. Maybe I haven't spoken to her in 2 years, 5 years, 6 months, whatever it is, and I'm offering her a date. I'm offering her a date of a high profile, successful man that I've agreed to work with. She should
Yeah.
be jumping for joy that I'm reaching out to her because I have such a great roster of men at any time. And she should
I
say,
love
thank you
it.
very much. I'd love to go. And then you see what happens. It's 1 hour of your night. Best case scenario, you fall in love. Worst case scenario, you make a new friend.
I
That's how.
agree. Well, why don't you add Madison Malloy to your challenge list?
Okay. To my challenge list. I don't know how
I'm
much.
very picky. I'm very picky. But that's the thing is,
That's what every single person says, by the way. Every single person says, I'm so picky. I doubt that you could set me up, blah, 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 blah. It's always that.
yeah. Well, okay, so here's the
So
thing. So I'm a mindset person. I write books in it. I've coached people all over the globe. So I'm really into mindset. So when people ask me, and I'm in New York City, so when people ask me like, how is dating? Like I have a very positive outlook on dating because I'm like, it's amazing. Like everyone I've met, because my energy matches, is very nice, is very just gentlemanly. They're amazing. I just don't want to wake up with them for the rest of my life, right?
right, okay.
But they're unbelievable people. I've actually gone on dates with people that I've set up with my friends because I'm like, you're so awesome. I
Right.
just don't think we're a match, but like, you're amazing. I've had dates where I wasn't interested, but this person was so great. We ended up doing business together. I shit
Yeah,
you
of
not.
course.
And I tell my girlfriends that are like, oh, dating sucks. It's so hard. And I'm like, no, what sucks is your attitude. You've
Right. And that's
got
true.
to change your mindset and say, like, just because you go to dinner with somebody doesn't mean that it has to turn into marriage. It could turn into a friendship. It could turn into a business relationship. It could turn out that his best friend is actually the one for you and he's for your best friend. There's so many great possibilities. For me, I think my problem lately has been like my schedule. My schedule's just been crazy. And then I was actually talking to my dad this morning and I was like, yeah, I haven't been going on dates and I don't want to go on dates this month because I have such a fabulous summer planned and everything's going so well. And I've got the new book coming out. And I said, I just don't want to put any wrench plans in it. And he goes, well, that's always when it's going to happen, kiddo. And I'm like, no, you're right.
Well, so I have a book out also, and the second page of my book is a quote from my grandmother. So when I was younger, my grandmother always said to me, if you get invited, you go because you never know who you're going to
Yes.
meet. And that's
Yeah.
something that I've lived by my whole life. And so I think that, the one great piece of advice that I give, and I give so much advice, but one kind of uniform advice piece that I always say to people is that if you get invited, you go and you just stay open to the possibilities because you could go on a great date and like you said, he's not for you, but maybe his best friend is. And if you're
Yeah.
sitting on the date and you're annoyed by the fact that you put on this great dress and you went to meet this guy and you didn't like him and you put out this negative energy and you're kind of bitchy and you're not really paying attention to him and you're looking at at your phone and you're complaining a lot, then he thinks negatively of you. And then 2 weeks later, you meet his best friend on a dating app and the best friend goes to this guy and says, oh, I met the greatest girl, blah, blah, blah. And then the best friend is like, dude, she's the worst. She sat on my date. She was a bitch. She was this, she was that, and whatever. And then there goes your opportunity
Yeah.
with the guy who could have been your husband. So you have to go, you put on the smile, you put on the lipstick, you sit down, you find the great thing about every person. I mean, you host a podcast. I mean, there's
Yeah.
something interesting in anybody that you speak to. So you find
Yeah.
out what it is. Maybe you don't like the guy, but maybe he throws the greatest 4th of July party every year. And now all of a sudden you get to go. And you get to
Yeah.
bring 4 of your friends and you get to meet all of his friends and then you meet another guy. But if you're not nice on the date, then he's not going to invite you.
I
Maybe the
agree.
next guy who's going to finance your next company, or he's going to be the one who gets you
Yeah.
an article in the New York Times, or blah, 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 blah. So you just kind of have to see what can come out of it. So when I set somebody up, I say,
So
go.
true.
He's either your husband or he might be something else, and you've got to just see what could happen. I mean, I have a question for you. When
Yeah.
was the last time you were in a relationship?
Like a serious. Well, I dated somebody that ended like end of November. He like said he wanted what I wanted and then he changed his mind.
And
So,
how long were you together?
well, we dated last year and then he was like, "Oh, I don't spend enough time in New York." So he went away, but I wasn't really into him. And then we reconnected. He was like, "Let's give it another chance." And I said, "You know what? I didn't really treat you, I didn't give you the time that you deserved, and you deserve that. And everything was going great. And then he was just like, I don't want marriage. I don't potentially want kids. Like, I'm out. And I was like, okay. Like,
So
I was
have you, do you feel like
butthurt.
you've ever
My
been in
friends were
love?
very angry. I have. I had somebody that should have been that I think still was like the guy.
Oh,
And we both say the same thing. It was 10 years ago, but I mentally was not ready. And I
yeah.
was dealing with a lot, if you read my book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up, it's all in there. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and living in a scarcity mindset and, constantly kind of living in fear and trying to figure out my career. And, I always laugh and I say, gosh, if him and I had met today, it would 100% worked,
Yeah, I mean,
So it's a
timing
little
is it.
sad. Yeah, it's a little sad because I
Timing
was
is
like,
everything.
that was 100% like probably the guy. But he
What I
wasn't, or else he
what
would
I
have
like
been. And
what I
then I
like,
haven't really dated this year because I've been so busy.
yeah. I think that when you're very busy, you have to think to yourself, what do I want to prioritize right now? And you have to decide, is it work? Is it personal? Can you balance both of them? Where are you in that
Yeah.
trajectory? Because everybody, all of us, especially New Yorkers, everybody's busy all the time. So it's really easy to have that excuse, and to kind of say, oh,
Yeah.
I'm so busy with this. Or like you said to your dad, I've got these great plans for the summer. What did your dad say to that? Because what I would say is great. Well, if you meet someone, then you can include him in your great summer plans. For some reason you
Yeah,
see like compartmentalized, but I don't
you're
see it that
right.
way. Like I see it that you can bring it all together. So if
Yeah.
you have these great plans, maybe he has great plans too, and then you join each other on each other's great plans.
Maybe he's got better plans. Who
That's right.
knows?
Maybe he's got better plans. He might have better plans, and then you might be like, "Oh, yesterday I thought my plans were terrific, but forget my plans. Your plans
I
are the
like that. That's the glass half full attitude right there.
great." Yeah,
Absolutely. No, you're right. And the thing is too, it's like, I don't look, I always say like, I'm religious, so it's like, if it's in God's plan, like I'm open to it. I'm not closed off, but I'm also like, very respectful more so than I ever was before because my value for myself and my confidence is so much higher now that I don't just give my time to anyone. And so
right.
I'm very cognizant of like, when I was on the apps, I would always do FaceTimes to make sure because I didn't want to waste his time. The guy always pays for the first meal, so I didn't want to waste his money. I'm not looking for a free meal. I'm looking for a connection. So I would always do like a FaceTime date. And then if there was a connection, I'd be like, okay, cool, let's go do dinner. And I did it out of respect for myself, but also out of respect for the other person because I
Yeah,
understand there's a lot of pressure on guys these days, and it's like they've always got to be paying and they're working hard and I work too and I get it. So it's like I'm not, if I'm not looking for a free meal ticket. Like I'm not, I'm not 25 years old looking to try every restaurant. I don't care about that anymore. Um, but
I think it's
yeah,
important to be respectful of other people. And so some people will say to me, well, when you're picking a match for me, how do I know that the other person is taking this seriously? How do I know that they're not just going for the sake of going, but they're really looking for a similar kind of
you're
relationship?
like, because they paid me a shit ton of money.
Oh, no, I mean, only one side pays, so
Yeah.
if it's the man or if it's the woman and they're saying, well, the side that isn't paying, how do they know that they're getting someone
Ah,
serious? The reason being is that I think a lot of people are very respectful of the dates that matchmakers send people on because they know that the people are earnestly looking for someone and they know
mhm.
that the person's paying a lot of money. So
Yeah.
I've had people that I've contacted, women, and I'll say, I want to set you up with this fabulous man. And the woman would say, listen, I'm really not in the mindset right now, or I just got out of
I
something and I
like
don't have
that.
time, or I'm going through something in my personal life, or I'm too busy at work, or I just want to play around. So I'm going to be respectful of your client and I'm going to turn it down. So I
Yeah.
think it happens a lot where people are respectful of other people. And also I do a lot of dating coaching. I'm on this app called Intro, and I'm one of their featured dating experts there. And so people come and they can talk to me for 15 minutes or 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever they want. And I give them advice. And a lot of them are asking me for advice about their dating app profile. And what they say that a lot of times they have their profile out there, and that they're meeting, it's mostly women who come to me, that they're meeting a lot of men who aren't taking relationships seriously, that they're
Mm,
really looking for a serious relationship. They're looking to move in that direction of getting serious, getting engaged, getting married, potentially having kids, whatever it is. And that
yeah.
sometimes they meet men who aren't looking for the same thing, and they feel like the men waste their time. So the coaching that I give them on that is that you need to be very verbal on your profile that that's what you're looking for. I'm looking for a serious relationship. If you're somebody who's not like keep on going kind of thing, and say it in a nice way, and I'll figure out exactly how they should say it, that reflects their personality. But what I find happens if you do that is that most men, not every man, but most men are respectful, and they read it and they say, you know what, if I want to F around, I'm not going to do it with this woman, because this woman took the time to say that she's looking for something serious. Whereas the two swipes down, that woman is saying she's open to taking it slow, or she's open to having a good time or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's more respectful to choose that woman. So I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to kind of speak about what you're looking for, put it out in the universe, let it be in the ether that you're
Right.
looking for something, that you want
Yeah.
to be set up, and then that comes back to you.
Well, exactly. It's all energy, it's all mindset, it's all perception. Like what you get out is what you're going to get back. So let's forward to the good stuff. It's always the age-old question. And my guy friends and I, we always have this argument, right? So when to be intimate with somebody. This is a big thing because for me, I'm like, you know what, at this point, I would rather be celibate until I know I'm going to marry the next guy. Like I don't need to, there's a toy in every woman's drawer that's better than any man she's ever been with. So let's be realistic when it comes to that, right? You can wait. You don't want to just be another because things change after you're intimate. And then I've had guy friends that are like, we totally respect that, but just so you know, like we love you and we're telling you this, like it doesn't matter if you fuck him on the first date or the third date or you make him wait till the 10th. If he's going to leave after he gets it, he's going to leave anyways. And I'm like, no, but I think it actually does change the dynamic. I don't know if it's because there's so much oxytocin released on the female side. But for me, I'm like, no, I value myself. I respect myself. Why would I do that unless I think that there's like a future there, you
I think
know?
it depends on how you think about sex.
Oh,
I
for
think,
me, it's marriage.
okay, so
Marriage. Sex is marriage
so
now.
that's you.
Yeah.
I think that there are a lot of women out there who actually enjoy sex, and so they don't put so much pressure on the actual act of it, and they just
Yeah.
decide whether or not they want to be intimate with the person that they're seeing. Other women use it as a weapon, where they think, oh, well, if I don't give the man sex, then I'm holding out, and he's going to like me more, he's going to want me more, this or that.
Yeah, that doesn't work either.
There's lots of different scenarios that go on with regard to sex, and what I'd say is that it needs to feel right for you, and it needs to feel right for the guy. And if you're with somebody and they're pushing for it and you're not feeling it, then and he's not respectful of that, then he's not the right guy, because he needs to be able to be respectful, because being respectful of how someone feels and what they want is an indicator of what's going to happen through your whole relationship, right? So if he's not going to be respectful at date 3 of something that you tell him is important to you, then it's going to be anything and everything that's important to you. He's not going to give a shit. So I think that tells you something about the guy and where it's going forward. And you just have to decide what you're comfortable with, and then you do what you want to do, or you don't do what you don't want to do. And then if it's the right guy, he's going to be cool with that. And if it's not, it's not. But I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on it at all.
You're right.
It's
So moral of the story
like,
is if you want to fuck him, fuck him.
yeah, if you want
If
to
it
fuck
was gonna not
him,
work,
if
it wasn't
you
gonna
don't
work no
want
matter what.
to,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't. And if you want to wait, you wait. And if you want to have a conversation, what I will say as advice is that
Yeah.
you can't have a big conversation about it. You can't make it be this gigantic elephant on the
Aha.
table. You have to keep it chill. So, however you feel that way and you own it and you're confident on it. And if he wants to talk about it, you talk about it, but you don't talk about it for 3 hours. You don't talk about it for 1 hour. You talk about it for 5, 10 minutes. You say how you feel. You don't make it a big deal. And then you change the subject because all of a sudden it becomes such a bigger thing than what it was, and then all of a sudden
That's
he
good
thinks of you as
advice.
so heavy. He thinks of you as so serious. And then all of a sudden he's like, gosh, this is date 5. I'm attracted to her. She's attracted to me. I thought that we'd have sex. I brought it up, and now we had to talk about it for 2.5 hours. He wasn't looking to have a 2.5 hour conversation with this woman or with any woman right now. So that's why they don't like that. So don't do it. You
That's
say,
good advice because I think women
move
do,
on.
yeah, they do hone in on that, and it's right. Like that goes to the weapon part. Just be like, I just want to make sure, there's potential for long term. But, when
You
I'm
could say
ready, I'll
that,
let you know. Boom.
or you could say, I'm the kind of person that I only like to be sleeping with one person at a time, and I like the person that I'm sleeping with to only be sleeping with me. So if we're continuing to see other people, which is fine, then maybe we're not going to be having sex yet. You just kind of say it,
Yeah,
and
like
then
until we
that's
both
it.
decide that we want to be monogamous, this is just not something I'm enjoying getting to know you, and I'd like to
Right. I'm enjoying
further
getting to
that.
know you.
End of
I
story.
don't want to rush anything. I want
Yeah.
to I want to take it slow, make sure we really like each other, and I don't want sex to make it hyperspeed this relationship. So let's kind of take it slow, get to know each other, see if we like each other, and then when we're ready, of course, I'd love to have sex with you. And you kind of
Exactly.
and
I've
that's
had
it.
these
And then
things.
you're like, okay, what's
Yeah,
for dinner? You
exactly. I've had these, I've had, like, I have a lot of girlfriends. I have a lot of guy friends. And, I was like an athlete growing up and said, grew up with a brother. So I'm like kind of a tomboy. And so I'm like the cool girl. And so my guy friends share way too much information with me. I'm like, sometimes I don't need to know this. But one of the funniest jokes was I said, I was telling one of my guy friends, I was like, no, I can't just randomly sleep with people because like I have such a heavy oxytocin dose that I get attached. And so I need to make sure it's the right fit for me. So I'm not attaching myself to something that's not right for me.
Yeah.
And his joke turned around and was like, do you have those same emotions in your ass? I
Yeah.
thought that was a really good joke. And I was like, wait a second, I need to go on a deep dive if like oxytocin gets released from anal.
That
I
one,
just,
that one
sorry, I
I'm
had to
not
take it
touching.
into the blue
That one I'm
one.
not touching. I
Yeah,
have
you're
no
like, I'm
idea.
not touching that
I'm leaving that one for you. I'm leaving that
one.
one for you.
Okay,
I deal with PG sex questions only.
exactly. Trust me, back door is closed. But I had to bring in some blue comedy there because we were very serious for a while. And I was like, gotta make this fun. This is supposed to be fun. So, okay. So we're done with anal. Moving on. Let's go to what makes a good match. Do you believe in soulmates, by the way?
I do and I don't. I believe in soulmates, but I believe that every person probably has more than one. And I think that you can
Okay.
have a different soulmate at different parts of your life. Because if you think about it, like back in the day with our
Yeah.
grandparents, our great grandparents, people didn't live as long. So marriages were much shorter. Now, all of a sudden, you meet someone at 20, you live till 90. Like, I don't think that people were intended to be with the same person for 70 years. I don't think that people really intended to be
Mm.
with the same person for 50 years. I think that they were intended to be with people for a shorter time period. So I think that you could
Yeah.
meet somebody in your 20s, you could meet somebody in your 40s, you could meet somebody in your 60s or 70s as a soulmate. What do I think?
Yeah.
What do I think is a great match? I'm all about people who have commonalities. I do not believe that opposites attract. I think that opposites attract for a time period. I think that opposites attract is a good crash and burn situation. I think
Oh.
that if you're looking to marry somebody and if you're looking to be with somebody for the long haul, I think that you need to have as many things in common as possible. And I think
Yeah.
that common number one is your sleeping habits, because let me tell you, if you don't sleep the same way, go to sleep at the same time, get up at the
Right.
same time. If you're looking at your phone beforehand, if you want the
Yes.
air conditioning on high, you don't want the air conditioning on how many blankets, what lighting, the whole 9 yards. If you're not in sync there, then forget it. But there's, a lot of things I
I
think that
love
are
that.
important, that you need to have in sync. But I mean, but all kidding aside, you want to make sure that your values are in line. You want to make sure that the things that you enjoy are similar. You want to make sure that you laugh at the same things and you find the same things to be annoying. I think that that's a big one.
Oh,
If
I
you're
like
out
that.
someplace and you find something to be so annoying, like you're talking to somebody and they are annoying the shit out of you, and you're standing with your partner, your significant other, and they're just loving that person, and you come home at night and they're like, oh my God, I love that person. Let's get together with them. And you're like, my head will explode if I have to talk to that person for more than 15 more seconds, then
Yeah,
that's good. I mean, you want to be like this,
it's
you
a
don't
good
want to be
point.
like this. So,
Yeah, because you do, and I love the sleeping thing because I don't think like I've necessarily heard that, even though it's obvious.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
you
I
see
can't be
these
with
things
somebody
on
that
Instagram
snores.
all the time. You see these things on Instagram all the time where people joke about it, where they say, oh, well, there's a person who's really messy and there's a person who's really neat, and then they wind up marrying each other. Like those things, like they seem cute and whatever until you're living with somebody 24/7. And then all of a sudden, like those things are super, super annoying. They get magnified and you're like ready to blow your mind. So I think these are things you need to think about before you get
No,
married.
well, of course, absolutely. And there's certain people that really believe that are married that are like believe in separate bedrooms. And I'm like, I could see that. But yeah, the sleeping thing, because I like to go to bed early and then get up early. And then there's times I like to go out and I want to stay out late and then like have one day where I can sleep in. So I think it's like, yeah, that is key. Because like I like to get up early, but I don't get up at 4 in the morning. And there's like a lot of guys I know that get up at 4 in the morning. And I'm like,
I
ah,
think that if you're with somebody and you just discover later on that your sleeping is just completely off for a number of the reasons that we've spoken about, a piece of advice I say is that if you have a large enough home, that you could have like one night a week where you actually do sleep in separate bedrooms, just to give
yeah,
yourself like that reset. Because sometimes you just need your own space. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you're having a terrible stomach ache and you just want to be by yourself, or sometimes you're very stressed out and you can't really fall asleep and your partner's laying next to you snoring away and you are trying to fall asleep and nothing doing, and you're looking at them and you're like, I just want to suffocate you with my pillow. You
yeah,
just can't take it anymore. So I think that if you know that you have like that one day a week where you can have like your own privacy, where you can just do what you want, then it kind of gives you the space to say, okay, well, just like the weekend, 2 days of rest, you can have that one night where you can have your own space if you want it, and there might be a week where you don't want it, and that's great, but at least
yeah.
like have that coming down the
It's a
bend.
good, yeah. So manifest money because you need it for that second bedroom. Yes.
Ah,
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like you kind of answered my next question was like, what are some advice tips you have to like divorce proof your relationship? And you pretty much nailed it. So you don't have to repeat it. Sleeping, values, annoyances, like,
and kind of and giving people grace. I mean, that's something
well,
that
yeah,
I've
we're not perfect. Nobody is.
yeah, you have to be willing to give your partner a break, so you
Hmm.
can't give them a hard time about everything. And like they drop something all over the floor, it shattered, it was what you were just cooking, whatever it is, and you're like, I can't believe this. But they didn't mean to do it, it didn't happen on purpose, like whatever it is, people are, when they're underfoot, where they're together so much, they're very quick to kind of jump down each other's throats. And I think it's important to just give your partner some grace. Just say, you know what, accidents happen. With my kids, it's the same thing. You want to teach them that they need to understand that sometimes they need some grace and sometimes they need to give their friends grace. It's
Yeah,
just something that's really important in a relationship.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So tell us about your book,
Well, so my book is called
Matchbook.
matchbook, The Diary of a Modern Day Matchmaker, and it's really, really fun read. It's sort of a Sex and the City meets Bridget Jones' Diary. So it's a
Okay.
year in the life of a modern day matchmaker and all the kind of crazy, funny, neurotic people who come to see her and hire her to work with them. And then at the same time as she's working with all these people, she's also looking for love herself. So it's based
Oh,
in truth, but all of the characteristics of all of the characters have been all jumbled up to protect the innocent, and there are no names in the book. So there's like Brad Pitt guy, the girl who I always thought hated me, Miss 39, the
yeah.
gazelle with the pinky ring, so there's all like,
Yeah.
funny names of people, and then you get to know that character and what their journey is. And so as you're reading it, you're thinking to yourself, I know someone like that. I used to be that person. Oh, I met that guy. And you feel like very
Yeah.
connected.
Connected.
So it's just a lot of fun,
I
and it
love
has a lot of
that.
lessons.
Okay, I
Yeah.
love that. All right. And so where can people find you, read more information, follow you, hire you, all that good stuff?
So my website is samanthastable.com. So my company is called Samantha's Table. So it's
Love that.
SAMANTHASTABLE.com. My Instagram is Samantha Daniels Official. So you can find me on Instagram. I am working on another book upcoming. So you'll be excited to see that. And you can buy my book on Amazon. So it's a great beach read for the summer. So you'll
Okay.
love that. And you can find lots of information about everything that I do and all of my lecturing and my advice and hire me as a matchmaker
I
on my,
love that.
yeah.
Okay,
So
well, good. So yeah, you guys check out Matchbook, check out her website, and if you are looking for advice, hire her as a dating coach or hire her as a matchmaker. So,
thank you,
well, thank
Matt.
you. Yeah, and thank you, Samantha. This was great. I always love talking about dating episodes, although it's going to be a lot different. I've got to have you back on when I actually find somebody and I'm like, all right, my dating life's over.
I'm happy to give
Forever
you
single.
advice on the relationship, but I'm going to be reaching out to set you up with someone because I actually just took on a terrific guy, a terrific guy on Friday.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
I think that he would like you a lot, and I think that you'd like him too. He's, in his 40s, he's handsome, he's well educated, he's super successful, he's kind,
Aw.
he's fit, he's really an awesome, amazing man. And I
Okay.
think that if you go out with him, you will have an absolutely different experience than you've ever had with matchmakers before. So
Okay.
I'd like to change your impression of the industry, because I hate to
Yes.
hear that somebody thinks such negative things about my industry. I mean, I'm one of the OG matchmakers. I've been in the business probably
But
the longest.
in my
So I
defense,
the ind-
yes, in my defense, I've never met you.
no,
So
of course.
you're gonna change the game.
I am going to change the game for you, as I have for a lot of other people. So I look
Yeah.
forward to our continuing to talk.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to hearing more about your dating journey.
Well, thank you, my dear. And thank you to everyone who's listening, wherever you may be. We will see you next time on Next to Madison to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.